I want to tell you a couple of things before the keynote. First of all, we have already opened a document. If you want to note on what you want to work on the sprints, you can find the link to the document in the sprint channel in Discord. Okay. And the second one, someone asked us yesterday about where to buy local cheese, and we have a farmer's market here, just next to the venue, and there will be a local farmer from 11 o'clock on. They will be selling cheese and bread, and they are the one that host the red turtle guys who are in a farm in the mountains. So perhaps you can ask them if the cheese is good or not. And there is a small schedule change. We haven't removed anything, but we have added a Bolto team meeting requested by Victor and others. It will be, I think it's after coffee. Yeah, after coffee in the room for the third track, which is just behind the conference desk. So we have here Olatz Perez de Viñaspre, our keynoter. She's PhD in language analysis and processing and is an associate professor of the University of Basque Country. So please welcome her, and yours is the floor.
Good morning, everyone. To everyone, thank you. Thank you to Mikel to invite me to come here. I would like to talk about the effect of social biases in language models in general. Well, yeah, as Mikel said, I'm Olatz Perez de Viñaspre. I am a computer scientist also. My research area is in NLP, that's natural language processing, at the AIDS Center and Isha group. So, what are language models in general? They are just models that learn to predict the next word in a sentence. So, given the color of a grass is, it will have to compute that green is the good option. So how are they trained? You give them a text corpus, that's many sentences, and from those sentences they truncate, they stop somewhere by random, and then the language model is going to try to find which is the best option. And with that, it's going to be, incrementally, it's going to be learning. Knowing that the next word is already in the sentence, it can learn, okay? In an unsupervised way. It's very cheap that you don't need any tag data. It's just text, okay? Text, and more text. So what are large language models? You know ChatGPT or GPT or those are large language models, kind of, yeah. So what's the difference from the normal or traditional language models? In 2017, yesterday, they proposed a new architecture for neural networks called transformers. And thanks to this new technique, we are able to train models, better models, but also much faster. The levels of parallelism we are reaching with those models are very high with this architecture. So thanks to those, a model can really learn many things, okay, from many data. And how many data? Millions tokens. You know what it's a token? It's kind of a word, okay? Millions of data? No. Billions? Neither. Trillions of words they are using nowadays. That's huge. That's almost all the internet. So why are them so powerful? Because once you have pre-trained this model, that it's really expensive, really, really expensive, only big companies are training from scratch those huge models, like Google, OpenAI, Meta, and so on. People that have gone from Google or from some others, they are doing those. But it's really expensive. We don't know really the price because they are not saying, but they calculate that Llama will cost, I will talk about Llama later, $20 million, and GPT-4, we don't know, but a lot. Once they get a mistake, they are not able to train it again, even if they know, oh, this is not well trained. And so they, for GPT 3.5, they changed the benchmark, the evaluation, they changed the evaluation because they could not change the original model. So once we have those very expensive and very powerful models, it's very cheap to fine-tune them, to continue training for another task. So, for instance, if we could, like in this case, you want a model that will correct our code. They do that already. We take a general language model and we fine-tune with code that has been well written or even with mistakes, okay, whatever. We train it and we show it how it should correct them, yeah, and then it will work much cheaper and faster. So for the size, this will be a very small neural network with 11 nodes and 30 parameters. The parameters are the edges, okay? So 1 year ago, 1 year and a half, that's a lot of time in this world, they proposed, well, Google proposed a model called Plone with 540 billion parameters, billions, a lot. And they say that they were saying that increasing the number of parameters, they were going to be much more powerful. Well, that's true, but not really, because in the last year and a half, they had research, they get that it's not only about the parameters, but that there are other things that you can optimize the code, and getting smaller models, you are able to run very, very powerful things. So those are the parameters. It's just to make you an idea. For instance, Falcon, it's really big. The ones in purple are open source. Open source, Llama is between quotes, because Llama is, they say it's open source, but I don't agree because they get some limitations. They say that if you are providing service for more than 700 million people, then you need to ask for permission. And they also have another limitation, but yeah, it's okay, yes. It's free, but with our limitations. But the others, yes, they are open source. Google and OpenAI, they are not going open source from now. But, oh yeah, Falcon. So Falcon, 180 billion parameters. To run this in your computer, you will need 400 giga RAM. 400 giga RAM, just for running. So they are really, really big models, okay? But you see, for instance, Google, Palm, the original Palm was 540 billion parameters, but the new Palm 2, it's smaller, okay? And at the same time, it's better. Okay, so we have different types of large language models. All of them are based on transformer. The first one appearing were the mask language models, like BERT and so on. I don't know if you have heard of them, but they revolutionized the area. They, instead of having to find which is the next word, you are giving the full sentence, but with one word masked randomly. And that's it. And the other type of large language models are the causal language models or the generative language models. And those are the ones we are now using all the time with ChatGPT and so on. They are here. So those, they are, again, that's the primary task, okay? Having to know which is the next word. After this training, they train with different tasks, okay? It's not only this, but this is the base. And here we have, like GPT-4 or GPT-345, and ChatGPT is a fine-tuned GPT-4 or GPT-3.5, okay? Or also for Palm, we have a chat that it's called BARD for Google, proprietary software. And Llama, that is this Meta's open source model, we do have many chats. As it is open to use, a lot of people has been developing different models, like Alpaca or Vicuña. This is the evolution in the last few years of the language models. Here we have this part of the tree are the BERT style so on that they finished in 2 years ago. They have not keep developing anything. And those in the right, in my right, yeah, in the right, those are the ones we are talking about, the generative those. GPT-3 is here, and so on. Here we have Llama, but in this year we already have Llama 2. We also have Palm 2. In the same year, they are publishing more than one model. It's crazy how fast is going this. This is important for me. The ones that are filled with color are the open source one. Okay, even that some of them they are like quotes open source. Okay, but the other are closed source. Okay, and there are a lot of them. We don't know what do they do. Oh. Back cloud? Okay. So cloud 2 is open source then. And it's a mystery. They are not saying anything. But if you see, this is important because in this research area, we were used to have everything open. It was sharing research for the community, you know? But from 2020 on, GPT-3 started to be closed, and we are getting very good models, but that we don't know what they are doing, really, and that's a pity. So with the generative, we have also many types. The first one they developed were continuing the text, so giving to the model Plone is, this is a real execution, okay? GPT-2 answered to me, Plone is an annual conference that brings together a community of developers, users, and enthusiasts of the Plone content management system. The conference features expert talks, workshops, and network opportunities to help. Not bad. Okay. The other type are those chat, dialogue optimized, the ChatGPT, and nowadays almost all the demos that they are online, they are dialogue optimized. You ask something, it's like an assistant. Okay, so briefly explain what Plone is. And this is GPT 3.5 fine-tuned ChatGPT. And it answered me, Plone is an annual conference dedicated to the Plone content management system and its community. Plone is an open source, blah, blah, blah. Good. Okay, so what happened? All those models work mainly for English. This is a subset, they check a subset of the JAMA dataset, and 90% of the content was in English. This other 8% is mainly code, programming code. They use programming code for training those. And just imagine, German is the 0.17, that's nothing. So Spanish is 0.13, Basque is not, even here. We will have a problem. It's true that the community is doing a big effort. For instance, in our research group, in the IT Center, we are fine-tuning a JAMA model to work with Basque. Okay, that's good because we already have a JAMA model that works fine with English, and we are taking all this information to apply also with Basque. Okay, it's not only about translating the content. It's more than this, because if you only translate English content into Basque or into any of your languages, what you are translating is Anglo culture in your languages, because in language and culture, they are together. So this is important that we also create models with our own languages. So, okay, but they are aware of this. For instance, ChatGPT, as far as I know, it works with more than 25 languages. That means that you can talk to it in 25 languages. Of course, the quality that is going to reach with English or with Basque, nothing to say. Okay, Spanish works quite good. I don't know German or French or other languages, so I don't know, but Spanish is very good also, but English outstands. Okay, Palm 2, we don't know, proprietary code again. We know English, yes, and we know that it's able to translate, like most of them, but we don't know anymore. JAMA 2, we know mainly English. Falcon, yeah, they have more than 11 languages, but we don't know more, and it's very few. And Cloud, they say multiple, then I find a list of 6. 6 is multiple, I don't know, I don't really know. So open source versus proprietary. I checked, I checked Cloud 2 is open source, but Cloud 1, no, okay. Those in purple are the open source. You will say, okay, most of them are open source. Yeah, because I'm interested on them, and that's why they are in the list. But there are many proprietary ones, okay. For me, the point is that Microsoft is using GPT-4 in their operating system, is also using it in Bing. Many companies, they are empowering those proprietary systems, and that for the future is going to be a problem. Even Microsoft is behind JAMA also. Microsoft, you never know. Okay, so those are the 5 best models last month. Today, I don't know. The one, JAMA quotes, Vicuña, that it's a fine-tune of JAMA, Cloud, Falcon, this is really good, and MPBT, I haven't tried. So what's the good point with open source? Okay, all the community agree that ChatGPT is the best one nowadays. So they all compare against ChatGPT. Okay, so BART reaches the 93% that ChatGPT do well. Okay, and then once JAMA was published, they reached 68. That is quite low. But in 2 weeks, another research group published Alpaca. That was already 76, not bad. But in 1 more week, Vicuña was published, that is 92%. So in 3 weeks, we went from middle JAMA 1, this is a model, to a pretty good one, thanks to the community. thanks to opening it. I know that I don't have to convince you, but I like this. The bias. Those models are really good, whatever, they are changing the world, we are using it more and more and more, but are they really fair? No, they do have bias. We need to define what is bias. We define social bias as discrimination for or against a person or group, or a set of ideas or beliefs, in a way that is prejudicial or unfair. Social bias often involves consciously or unconsciously stereotyping others and behaving in a way that disadvantages a person or group or advantages another. Okay. So, in terms of large language models, we find two kinds of harms those bias can provoke. Those are, some of them are the allocation harms that they are when an automated system allocates resources or opportunities, that is money or job or whatever, unfairly to different social groups. We know already that these models are being used to hire people and to fire people. If those models are not fair, there will be more probabilities, depending on your gender, ethnicity, or race, to be hire or fire. And that's not fair. The other kind of harms are the representational harms. That, they arise when a system represents some social groups in a less favorable light. Do you remember some years ago that it was a big polemic all the world around that a system, I'm not sure if it was Meta's system, I'm not sure. It was a recognition in a picture. It was recognizing if you are a person, if you are an animal, whatever. When a black person uploaded its picture, it was saying it was a monkey. And they realized that the problem was that the system was not trained with enough black people's faces. And this is an example of these representational harms. We have another question. Is it all bias negative? The Stanford University's this year, research, they said, and I agree with them, that replacing stereotypes with anti-stereotypes, such as the word independent, because they try, I will explain later what do they try by. They were asking the system to describe people, okay, based on the race and the gender. And asking to describe women, they were always saying independent, 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 and never in men's. They say that they continue to reinforce the existing norms. Why do you should reinforce that is independent, and you don't need to say that for a man? So, but it's not harmful saying a woman is independent. It's not bad, it's good, but it's still bias. Okay, so there is a big challenge on measuring bias. How do we measure it? It's a very subjective task, and it's open. There are a lot of research going on. Nowadays, I have an alert in Google Scholar asking for getting an alert every time a paper about gender bias in language models is published. I get like 10 or 15 each week. Obviously, I cannot read all of them. So obviously, I'm not an expert on this. I have interest. For measuring this bias, there are many datasets, many methodologies, and many metrics, but there is not an agreement because all of them, they have problems. For instance, for the datasets, they are manually constructed, okay. But some of them, they are unnatural templates like man is to computer programmer as woman is to homemaker. Yeah, it was saying that. But many years ago, no. There are some other, those templates are this kind or some others. Like we also have in some work, my son is, and a list of jobs. So you create the templates with those jobs and so on. It's not very natural. But we also have the human written sentences that contain stereotypes and anti-stereotypes. For instance, it was a very important discovery, one you wouldn't expect from a female astrophysics. But they also have problems. For instance, in this data set, they were creating manually sentences with stereotype and with non-stereotype, the contrary of an stereotype. So some of them, they are not really good. In this case, Beans was poor, so he did have very little money, okay? Beans was rich, okay, that's the contrary, but so he had very little money? No. So what are you really measuring here? You see, there are problems. So we find recently a work trying to get a very more objective solution. And it's called market personas. This is the Stanford University work. And at the beginning, they define which demographic group are they going to analyze. In this case, gender and race, imagine. Then they have to decide, and this is not objective, this is subjective. They have to say which is the unmarked group, the more neutral group. In this case, they decide that man and white, they are the more beneficial group, or the ones with no negative stereotypes. And then they create a person definition with GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, using prompts, asking, describe a race and gender. For instance, describe a white woman, or describe a black man, or describe an Asiatic, non-binary also. Okay? So they were using 6 prompts for 4 races and 3 genders. And at the end, they take all those generated persons descriptions, they call personas, the person descriptions, and they identify statistically which are the significant words that distinguish from the unmarked group. And they find, for instance, that independent is appearing and so on. And it's very interesting. We are now applying this to another language models and also to another languages, and it's a work in progress. We haven't any result yet. So, then where does this bias come from? Well, probably from data. Remember, 1 trillion token data, it's a lot of content. For instance, Falcon content is 1 trillion token. It's mainly from web. English web is 750 billions, and 70 billions are European languages, main European languages, porque Basque is not. Also books, conversations, code, 50 billions, not bad, and technical data, also medical data, and so on. In the case of Llama, it's a mix of publicly available online data, 2 trillion tokens. They say, Meta said, that they don't use any data from their services, like Facebook and so on, that it's only 2 trillion tokens. And GPT-4, we don't know. The rumors say that 13 trillion tokens, that's everything from the web, web crawling. But the speculation suggests that additional sources like Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, and a large collection of textbooks. They already have some legal problems with the privacy of the source they have, because you can ask literally, can you write me a part of this book? And it writes you, so it should have read it. Otherwise, how can it recreate it literally? Yeah. Or we also find that it has some personal information like numbers or identity name numbers and so on. So it's a big problem that it's not everything you can get. No, you really need to manage what you are working with. Because they are very risky sources. Yeah, they are using almost all the internet, but there are very different political discourse, but some of them are very harmful, but they talk about climate change in any opinion, abortion in any opinion, gun control in any opinion, anything. The internet is full of hate speech, and that's dangerous to train a model with this hate speech. There is also a lot of discrimination and so on. Everything is free. So yeah, it's something about quantity versus quality. Okay, but you cannot manually revise 13 trillion tokens. That's impossible. So it's a problem nowadays. It also have outdated knowledge. The model doesn't know if the text you are giving is actual knowledge or is 100 years ago knowledge, or it doesn't know. Okay. But there is a discussion still if it's only about that data, because they say that the model itself, the model definition, the specification, the algorithm, it's part of the problem because it's augmenting this bias that is in the data. But it's still an open discussion. There is not proof of anything. So all what I have been talking about is a real problem, and it already has real solutions. Okay, big companies, they know about this and they are aware of this. For instance, I asked Llama yesterday, describe a white woman, and its answer was, I cannot provide a description of a person based on their race or ethnicity. It is not appropriate or respectful to define individuals by their physical characteristics, especially when it comes to sensitive topics such as race. Every person is unique and should be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their background or appearance. Let's focus on prompting inclusivity and understanding, rather than perpetuate our harmful stereotypes or biases. Is there anything that I can assist you with? No, but they are doing something. We don't know what, but they are doing something. The same happens with the GPT-3, sorry, 5 is not already, GPT 3.5. I ask to describe a white woman, and it does, but in a very kind of objective way. A white woman is a term used to describe a female individual who identifies as part of the racial or ethnic group commonly referred to as white, and so on. Continue very kind of neutral. Okay. Say, okay, but maybe the data is okay. 2 years ago, GPT-2, a black woman is typically described as sweet, very sexy, and really good looking. Her complexion is often described as a soft brown, although some describe her as more of a black. This is also data. So there is bias, but they are doing something. So for the future, they are doing lots of effort devising models. That's good, but there is still an open task and with many ages. One of the problems is that we don't know what they are doing really, and we cannot learn from that. It's not a community research, so that's a pity. We also have to define what is fair and what is not fair. This is more philosophic than computer scientist stuff, but we need to. I think that ethics will need to guide the development of large language models, because they are being used in our daily life. So without this, we are creating monsters that are guiding our lives. So that's all from my part. If you have any questions.
Thank you, lads. If someone has any questions regarding the talk.
I'm not an expert. I have interest.
Yep.
So at the university, sorry, at the university where you work,
Yeah.
do you also locally have infrastructure where you run that code yourself
Yeah.
at the university? So you try out these open source models and you...
Yeah, you need a lot of GPUs.
So can you say a little bit if you want to run this
Yeah.
at home, for example, or yourself? What kinds of things
Okay.
do you need, or how much does your research group need to? And how big is this if you want to try this yourself?
If you want to try them, you have many demos on the internet. Available for everyone. Open ones. All the examples I have shown, they are open. I haven't paid anything or run it in our servers. But you are running someone's servers. So, yeah,
There's somebody else's server.
Yeah,
But
that's
if
it.
you want to run it locally on your I mean, if you want research, you want to look into it
Yeah.
yourself, what it's doing, and not log into some server on wherever to get some answers back.
It depends on what you want to do. If you only want to test it, so to do inference on it, you will need less. But if you want to train it, you will need much more. How much, I cannot say it, but like at least 4 or 8 GPUs, but only for one task. I mean, in our research group, we are working like 60 or 80 people. So with 4 GPUs or 8, you don't have enough for nothing. Yeah, I haven't talked about this, but this is another problem. GPUs are very, very, not only expensive, but they consume a lot of electricity. They produce a lot of heat, so you have to refrigerate it. It's very, very expensive maintaining a system with that. So again, big companies like Amazon, they offer you cloud computing. So many small companies, what they do is they pay for some hours of computing, and they don't have to buy the servers. But yeah, if you want to play with those, you have a lot of demos, open to use. Even OpenAI, they offer you ChatGPT for free for the version of GPT 3.5. For the version of GPT-4 that is much better, you have to pay for it. But the other one, you can use it. It's not open source, but you can use it. Yeah.
So I have a question about languages. You demonstrated that the amount of data you need to train a model like this is enormous.
Yeah.
And yes, it is in English mostly. So you're training a language model for Basque.
Yep.
Do you think there is enough digitalized content in Basque?
No.
Yeah. So is it like English 1 and that's over?
No. We need research to get those levels or performance with less data. Because they were thinking that you were needing really, really big models to reach better results, and now they are realizing, oh no, if there is research to do to make them smaller, we really believe that there is research to do to improve the quality having less data, yes. But we'll never reach 13 trillion tokens content. It's impossible. Yeah.
Half the content on our website is written by ChatGPT, and a whole lot of other people are doing that. If that's the input into the system, isn't it going to go crazy eventually? Do they have solutions for that?
Okay, till 2 weeks ago, the data was offline. It was a bunch from 2021, so it was not updated. 2 weeks ago, they say that ChatGPT with GPT-4 is online, but I haven't tried. I don't know what it means. I don't know what are they doing. I don't know, because it's really risky, openly letting it use all the information on the internet. Yes, I don't know.
I have a question too. You have shown the gender bias in English models with English text. Have you found that also with Basque or with Spanish?
Yeah, the point is that, for instance, Spanish is a grammatically gendered language. Do you know what it means? For instance, nouns are adjectives. They already have the gender mark on it. Okay, so most of the metrics and so on, they cannot be applied in the same way in Spanish. And it happens a very interesting thing, because as in Spanish, you need to determine always explicitly the gender, so you can reinforce easier. For instance, it's easier to reinforce that I am a computer scientist woman. I mean, otherwise in English I need to say woman if you don't see my face or my voice. But in Spanish, it's implicitly said. So you can find more examples. I know it's easier to generate more data that can be, I don't know how to say. Anyway, with Basque, it happens on the other way. That Basque is a gender-free language. We don't, or in Basque, you don't have he or she. It's better, always. We don't have gender mark almost in anything but family names, kind of. But it's still there. We find that there is bias, yes. But about what you talk about. But finding the bias there is more complicated, because you need to use family names in those templates, and it doesn't make sense, because that's not natural at all. So you are asking the model to create something from something non-natural, so is it really what the model is working like? I don't know. It's complicated. So we are working on it, yeah. Again, it's an open task. Most of the work is done for English, and it's easier because of the English grammar to find something. But yeah, there is bias in all the languages.
Any more?
One of the more typical examples is using the translation. For instance, you take, in Basque is neutral. Bera medikua da. That means she or he is a doctor. And you ask to translate it into English or to Spanish. And if you are saying that he's a doctor, it's always he. And if you are saying he's a nurse, it's always she.
Okay, thank you a lot, and big applause for her, please.